Okay, so we're now recording. So if you don't want to be seen, just knock off your cameras. And I'd like to introduce tonight, and I apologise if I get the pronunciation wrong, Professor. I'm hoping it's Professor Erinma Bell.
Erinma.
Hooray! That was what we were hoping. We were debating exactly. I've had a few people that have been trying to get the names right today. One I had to write down phonetically, you know, and to break it down so that I could actually get it right. So Professor Bell is with us tonight, and she's going to talk to us about her work as a peace activist. So what I'll do is I'll just sort of read through her official biography first. So apologies while I just sort of grab this up on the screen. While I'm just looking at it, I just need to shrink it down because that's the wrong one. Oh, Sheila sent me the right one. There we go. There we go. So I'm just going to, there we go. So Professor Erinma Bell, MBE, became a co-founder and CEO of her own formidable charity, the Community Alliance for Renewal in the South Manchester area, Charisma, which received the Queen's Golden Jubilee Award in 2007. The then Prime Minister Gordon Brown also recognised Erinma's efforts in the first chapter of his book, Britain's Everyday Heroes. In 2008, the Crown awarded Erinma with an MBE in recognition of her service to the community. And in 2011, she was made Deputy Lieutenant for the County of Greater Manchester as a representative to Her Majesty the Queen. In 2016, Manchester Town Hall unveiled a sculpture of Erinma made up from 50 recycled guns as a tribute to her work to reduce gun and gang crime in Manchester. Erinma has received numerous awards and recognition for her work, including the prestigious Variety Legends of Industry Award for her outstanding achievements in peace activism and charitable work. She has been recognised as one of the 50 most influential women in Greater Manchester, as one of the 100 inspiring women, and as one of the top 100 Nigerians in the UK. She is a local ambassador for Moss Side, an international Rotary Peace Fellow, and has been elected as a roving UK ambassador of the State of the African Diaspora, right? Just often I get the words get me, but that one got me. Lastly, Erinma has a passion for Nigerian fashion, as you can probably see, and textiles and clothing, and she has got her own brand called New Being Designs, right, which specialises in bespoke clothing. So at that point now, I'm going to hand over to Professor Erinma. I'm going to set up her slides to share with everybody.
Okay, because mine's ready to do it now if you want me to do it.
Right,
yeah.
Well, I will put you on share then, and we will do that then. Okay, so one participant can share at a time. Do you want to see if you can share that now?
No, it still says host disabled.
Oh,
Participants.
right.
If it's quicker, you can do it. It's all right, you know,
okay.
because of time.
Right, so I'm just changing that. Right, try that now.
Right now.
If that's changed.
I think so. Yeah, that's done it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, you should be able to see my screen. Yeah?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, let me make it a full screen slideshow. Yes, thank you very much for that lovely introduction there. Thank you very much, everybody, and good evening. And thank you so much for asking me to come and speak to yourselves. It is going to be about my work, but I thought what I'd do this evening is actually focus on women, because I'm a woman, minority woman as well. And I have found myself, you know, working in spaces that are usually always male dominated and, you know, white dominated as well. So, you know, especially when I've been meeting with ministers upon ministers, you know, and all those kind of environments that, you know, I didn't plan on being, you know, involved in. So I think, you know, women, whilst we have come far, you know, I think we've still got, you know, a lot of work to do. The country as a whole still got a lot of work to do in giving women, you know, equality, and in particular equality in the boardroom or around those, you know, strategic decision-making tables. I think, you know, we still need more women around them. We probably wouldn't be in the state that we're in today if we had more women, but then I won't get on my soapbox about that. So what I'm going to talk to you today, and please do, you know, at the end, I hope you will have questions, because I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as I can. A lot of my work is around peace and conflict resolution, because as we know, 15, 20 years ago, gun and gang crime was quite prevalent in South Manchester, and in particularly, you know, Moss Side. And that's where I reside, you know, in Moss Side. That's where the majority of our work started, in Moss Side, the work that we've done through Charisma, Community Alliance for Renewal in the South Manchester area. We've actually, you know, being that pressure group, that advocacy group, but more so being that pressure group on local and central government, we did enable gun crime in Manchester to reduce by 92%. And that was due to, you know, women like myself being those agents of change. I say agents of peace and change because I consider myself a peace activist. But first of all, we have to see gender as playing an important role within conflict resolution. And when we do want change, we have to see, you know, gender as being important. I've got up there 4 stages in engendering conflict resolution. Stage 1, women are the ones since time that have brought about peace during different types of conflict. And I'll list some women, you know, on my next slide: Tawakol Karman, Layman Bowie, Ellen Sirleaf, Waranga Matai, which some of them you may have heard of. Stage 2, removing the male bias. When presenting statistics, we need to stop grouping figures according to men and women, and or overweighting figures to make men appear more favorable. Stage 3, rethinking conflict resolution theory. Looking at what women have done to solve conflict, looking at how women have solved conflict, looking at the role women have played, you know, in solving conflict and peace and conflict resolution. And number 4, incorporating gender into conflict resolutions, policy making and practice, including gender in decision making. Take into account the different genders do things in different ways, you know, actually taking that into account seriously. Now, these are some of the visible women, you know, of change. We have here, and even you're talking about pronunciation of names, Tawakol Abdel Salam Carmen. And I'll just read a little bit about what she's done. And she says that I haven't got her. It is. She's a Yemeni Nobel laureate, a journalist, politician, and human rights activist. She leads the group, which is called Women Journalists Without Chains, which she co-founded in 2005. She became the international public face of the 2011 Yemeni uprising that is part of the Arab Spring uprisings. Then we've got Waranga Matai, and I love this woman, and she's passed on now. She was a Kenyan social, environmental, and political activist, and the first African woman to win the Nobel Prize. As a beneficiary of the Kennedy airlift, she studied in the United States, earning a bachelor's degree from Mount St. Scholastica and a master's degree from the University of Pittsburgh. And if anybody knows her story, she's an environmentalist, because in Kenya, where she's from, they wanted to, you know, most farming, agricultural farming is done by women. And the government wanted to clear the farmland in order to build buildings and houses. And she was one of the ones that stood up and said, no, this is our livelihood. But they were intent that they were going to do it. So what she did was she got all the women to come out, hundreds of women, and they actually bared their chests, you know, so that the men couldn't go and grab them, you know, to put them, they all stood there and bared their chests. And so the men wouldn't touch them. And that's how she got to win the land back, you know, from the government, and got them to change their minds about taking away, you know, their livelihoods to build, you know, roads and things like that. We've got, the next woman is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And she is the 24th and former president of Liberia, 2006 to 2018. She served as Minister of Finance under President William Tolbert from 1979 until 1980. Then we have, who I was fortunate to meet, I have got photographs with her, Lema Roberta Bowie. She's a Liberian peace activist responsible for leading a women's nonviolent peace movement, Women of Liberia Mass Action for Peace, that's what it's called, that helped bring an end to the Second Liberian Civil War in 2003. And she won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. And then we have Mala Yousafzai Mala, often referred to as magnanimously as Mala. She's a Pakistani woman, a Pakistani activist for female education, and the youngest Nobel Peace Laureate that we have. And then finally, we have myself, Erinma Bell, and you've read all, you did a lovely introduction there, and that's me with my statue. A lot of the work, as I was saying, that I've been doing in South Manchester. I remember when I went to Thailand, as a part of Rotary to do the Peace Fellowship. And I remember thinking, when I heard these other women's stories, and some of them I've met, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, now they are dealing with issues, and I remember, when you have that imposter syndrome, and I remember feeling that I shouldn't be here because, they were talking about really big things that were happening. And I was thinking, we've just got some idiots running around the streets with guns thinking that they're gangsters, can't we stop them? And I think that's what gave me that drive that, look, some people on the other side of the world, they've got hundreds of people that are dying, hundreds of people that are dying, and there's nothing they can do about it because, government's against them. Even though government was against us, because it took us 6 years to bring gun crime to the top of the government's agenda. They were not interested. 6 years it took us advocating, speaking out, advocating on behalf of local people and being that pressure group, but a proper, real pressure group on them. Not accepting the labels of such as black on black crime, not accepting the labels like, Gunchester, M16, because we have a postcode M16, but not accepting those and really throwing those labels right back at them. There's so much that we did. I remember just one little instance I'll give you. When a young boy was arrested on the streets of Moss Side, and he was 14 years old, and he was arrested with a Kalashnikov weapon. Now, the police were told not to do forensics on the weapon, but I suppose we were quite lucky in that we had, 2 or 3 senior officers that we were working with in GMP, and they decided to do forensics. Now, that weapon had been used in the Bosnia War. And so I was saying to our Home Secretary that how does a weapon from the Bosnia War end up on the streets of Manchester and in the hands of a 14-year-old? I said, in the hands of a 14-year-old, we can probably answer that. Well, how does it get in the country? Because again and again, they were blaming young people. Young people were to blame. Young people were causing the gun crime. Young people were going out shooting. And I said, yes, they are. However, where did the guns come from? If you cut off the supply, then we'll probably cut off the demand. And like I said, it took us 6 years to do that. Pushing the government to look at the borders and the ports. People are smuggling in these weapons, and it is not 14-year-olds smuggling in these weapons. And there were not black 14-year-olds that were smuggling in the weapons. So we managed to get somewhere in the end and managed to get them to look at certain things. And hence, that's why things started changing. We looked at the way police did their policing, and we influenced the training, especially when it was to do around stop and search. We influenced the training around stop and search. We influenced training in schools. We influenced schools. In fact, we used to go into schools and lead school assemblies. And we made sure that in schools, they were having the conversation around gun crime. They were providing a safe space for our young people to be able to talk about their real fears of being on the street or their real fears of gun crime or carrying a gun. Anyway, I want to now just cover 6 elements of a gender perspective, which I think has helped, in the work that I'm doing. And I hope that it will help, in the work that everybody else goes on to do. Gender is about the social roles and relationships between men and women, including who does what work and how decisions are made. It's not about the biological difference. So social roles should not be about the biological difference between us. It's about who does what. And there are some roles that women can do just as well as men, and vice versa. And I think that's important. Gender varies over time and across cultures. And it really does. I mean, like I said, I've had lots of meetings where I've had to go and sit with ministers, and most of them were usually always male. And I'm telling you, sometimes they were not nice. When I say they were not nice towards me because of my gender. You know, and I used to say to them, you know, my gender does not determine what I have to come and say, or does not, you know, I have certain experiences and information and knowledge that you need, you know, and if I was a man, you wouldn't address me the way that you were addressing me. Gender is multidimensional, influencing political, social, and economic interactions and needs. And that's the one thing that we've managed to do, or what I've managed to do, you know, through my organization. Even though I'm a woman, you know, I've been able to do that. Understanding gender also involves understanding power and how it's used and how it's shared. Because I found, again, like I said, because I didn't set out to be a community activist, I was quite all right just being an ordinary mom, you know, and doing my training and development. But I really had to become politically savvy and understand where the power lies. And I realized that power is in the people. So it was about, for us, it was about galvanizing and networking, but galvanizing lots of people together to basically sing from the same hymn sheet and, you know, and be in the same book, because some people were not even in the book. They didn't even have the right book. So we all had to make sure people had the same book. And we then found that the power was in the numbers of people that we could get together. That is what actually, would I say frightened, probably, you know, like local authority, because it was like, well, how have you managed to get all these people together? I said, because we all have something in common. We want a safer community to live in, and we want answers. And if local authority is not giving us the answers, that's why we then started dealing with central government. But basically it was trying to understand where the power lied. And I remember one time when I had a meeting with, and his name's just got out of my head, he was the leader of the opposition party at the time, Michael Howard, that was it. He came to Manchester, he wanted to meet with someone, asked could he meet with me, and I said, yeah, provided he was going to do certain things. Because, you know, I said to him, which I said to all of them, you know, yes, you get a tick box because it's gun crime, you get another tick because it's black people, you get another tick because it's Mossad. So, you know, politically that does something for you, but we need something in return. And I always still say to people, don't enter a strategic meeting if you haven't got an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. And if you haven't got an agenda when you're entering into a meeting, you're going to waste your time in the meeting. You're just going to be another bod on a seat. So I remember when I met with Michael Howard, and he did provide what we asked for. I remember our local authority saying to me, that I think it was Richard Lees, said to me, but Erinma, why are you meeting with Michael Howard? I said, well, why shouldn't I? At the moment, that was where the power lied. And I said, and there's certain things that we need doing and you're not doing them, but he's prepared to do them. So, hey, you know, it was about understanding where that power lied and how it was used and shared. Gender includes assumptions, expectations, and obligations about men and women. We all have assumptions and expectations and obligations. We do. And we do have assumptions. If we think that we don't, we do have assumptions. We all do. We all have biases. We all have, I mean, people call it that unconscious bias. I don't like to use that term because I feel we're all conscious beings. So when we have our biases, we know that we have the biases or the expectations of other people. And if we know that we have those and we can identify what they are, guess what? It also means that at times we can park them to one side to be able to get on with the job. Another quick example, I remember when I was down at the House of Parliament, and this was actually at the book launch that Gordon Brown did. And I was described by somebody, oh, she's just this angry black woman. And I was like, excuse me? So I went over to him and I went, you wanted to know who I was? And he was like, oh, no, it's okay. I said, no, it's okay. I said, you described me as an angry black woman. I said, well, you know what? I am a woman, I am black, and by God, am I angry. I said, but not at you, at the situation that's going on, you know, in down in Manchester, or up in Manchester then. And I remember saying to them, guess what? In Gordon Brown's book, I'm chapter 1, so I have a right to speak. So now I'm taking the platform, and they're all kind of like, you know, but I'm chapter 1. So that must mean something. Anyway, gender is institutionalized, and this is what we're seeing very much so, and enacted at the level of the family, the community, and the state. So, you know, in some of our organizations, I mean, we're having a bit of a pre-conversation before people came in, that, you know, we still are seeing very few women at board level, you know, very few women at CEO level of the real institutions and organizations that are actually running this country. You will find very few women, you know, in those top positions. And why is that? You know, we got the vote 100 years ago, or over 100 years ago. Why don't we still have equality? And that's just where I've got those from. This is a bit long, so I wasn't going to read all of them, but the persistent and increasing burden of poverty on women, inequalities and inadequacies in and unequal access to education and training. You know, these are all the things that are still happening with women. Violence against women, it's still happening. Inequality in economic structures and policies in all forms of productive activities and in access to resources, that's still happening. Insufficient mechanisms at all levels to promote and advance the advancement of women, that's still happening. Stereotyping of women and inequality in women's access to and participation in all communication systems, especially in the media, that's still happening. And persistent discrimination against and violation of rights of the girl child, that is still happening. And I thought I'd end with this because I love this. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. So please climb that tree. And sometimes that's how we could feel. And if that one doesn't reach out to you, maybe in the corporate world, when we want to climb the ladder in the corporate world, the ladder looks like this, you know. So I'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Erinma. That was great. I think just what we needed to hear as well, because you're right, we are still fighting against that bias. I mean, within our own union at the moment, we're doing some work on proportionality and representation. And you know, I think it's really interesting some of the things you said there, especially, you know, how the women bared the breast. Could you imagine doing that in the centre of Manchester?
Oh, I know.
Okay. I've got you, Leslie. I'll bring you in a minute. I've got you. Notice your hands up. If anybody wants to ask any questions or make any comments, you can either use your little hand symbol, which I think is next to your names on the participants, or you can put your hand up, or you can put a question mark or something in the chat, right? I mean, there's a few of you have asked for slides. If you want the slides, just pop your email address in there. We'll make sure you get those as well. But I say, just coming back to what you said there, I mean, there was some of it when you said that. I mean, 6 years, I remember a lot of the gun and gang crime in Moss Side, and our union office is just around the corner in Rusholme. And I think we were mentioned before, I mean, I've driven through the triangle of death. Yes. That's what they call it. Yeah. This certain area in Moss Side is the triangle of death. Yes. And I remember, you know, the way people perceived people in the society down there, because it wasn't that different to the Toxteth riots as well were going on, I think, at the same time. So there was stuff going on in Liverpool as well, and, you know, and down in London. So I think it is something that we find that women do get involved with our communities. And that is the whole point. You know, we get involved in our communities. We get involved with charities. We get involved, whether it's the kids in school, people are, you know, we're on boards and stuff like that. So I do think local ones, I mean, not high level boards, not like we were talking about before. And I do think it is us that actually do change things. And I think it's women, you know, this talk about the waves of women activism. And yeah, I think, you know, we've always been here. People like Professor Bell have been carrying on doing this for years as well. And as she mentioned, the people abroad as well in the other countries. I mean, I've read Malala Yousafzai's book. It's absolutely, you know, fascinating. Nowadays, contemporary wise, we've got people like Greta Thunberg who's doing things like that. And there's nothing to stop any of us doing anything. Now, I think Leslie had a hand up. Do you want to ask a question, Leslie? Do you want to unmute yourself? Because I can't unmute you. Thanks,
Leslie. It was actually an applaud that I'd put up.
Oh, was it an applaud one? Sorry. Yeah. You just.
No, I think you answered the question I put up, because it's like you're saying about the levels, you know, like the CEO and things like that. And it is, I think Erinma's right. There's not a lot of women that are at that kind of level that are brought in to that. But I think it's just something that I've noticed in a lot of sort of things, is that you don't find as many white women activists, and it's just something that I've noticed, and I just wonder why, really, because I mean, you think that a lot more people would want to sort of, you know, stop gun crime and you know, stop the knives and all the rest of it, and you know, because it's like when you think about it, they're not just taking out the victim, it's the both families, or you know, the whole structure of both families are totally destroyed. You know, the one that's harmed and the one that's, you know, been harmed. So for me, yeah, I just, you know,
I think that's a good point. It's a good point there, Leslie. You know, what is it a fact that there's more activism, right? You know, in the sort of black and ethnic minority community? Is there more activism in the white community? I think, you know, there are various things. Erinma, over to you. It's your question.
And what I wanted to say to that is, I think, you know, what was happening in the past, and you're quite right that it does affect, you know, all kinds of families. But what was happening, and this is what we had to take on the media as well, because it was the media, the way they were portraying gun crime. The media always portrayed it as black on black crime. So yes, you know, if you were not from a black family or black neighborhood, say, you wouldn't see it, you know, as a crime that actually affected you. You would believe that, yes, it is black on black crime. And I remember in all the work we were doing, one, we had to tackle the media, you know, so we tackled MEN, Manchester Evening News. I mean, now they're our buddies, you know, we can get anything we want in the evenings, and Granada TV, because we showed them that they were the ones that were giving us the labels. You know, I remember the Triangle of Death one. It was a woman from The Observer came to interview me, and I ended the interview because her first question to me was, "Oh, what's it like living in the Triangle of Death?" And I was like, whoa, you know what? I said, I don't know where that is. Oh, I said, I don't even want to know where it is. Interview, I remember I took everything off, and I was like, right, that's it. Took it all off, and I was like, interview's finished, bye. And she was like, but, and I thought, no. And then some people asked me why I did that. I said, because if I had answered her questions, then I am qualifying that there is such a space called, you know, the Triangle of Death. Whereas, you know, that's the media description. It's not my description. I call it Mossad. I don't call it the Triangle of Death, you know? So we had to tackle the media. And then unfortunately, I mean, this sounds a bit callous, but when there was a shooting in Hale Barnes, you know, which they described as a very leafy area, and the houses cost this much, but, you know, still Mossad got the blame because it was only so many miles from Mossad and we still got the blame. However, we were kind of like, yes, only because it proved that the color of the hand that pulled the trigger was not always black. And so we made contact with that other, you know, the other families. And I remember one time as well, I was in Wythenshawe. No, it wasn't in Wythenshawe. We were at City's Ground, actually. We went for a meal or something. And it was a community leader from Wythenshawe. He came up to me. And I remember he said, the first thing he said to me, he went, how come that when a black kid gets shot, it makes the front page of Manchester Evening News, but when a white kid gets shot, it's page 17 or 18, and it's a little tiny write-up like that. My first response to him was, well, you know what? I don't write the media, but it did actually make me think that actually, why is that? Because if somebody loses a child, they've lost a child. If somebody's child is murdered, their child is murdered. Should it matter what if that child is black or white? A parent, a mother, a father has lost their child. So that's when we decided to take on the media, as in, well, yeah, that isn't right. If a white child's shot and murdered, it should be on the front page as well. You know, so I wouldn't blame the individuals for not getting involved. Usually it's that media perspective and the spin that the media puts on things, because we know we had a lot of white people that were involved, you know, in our campaigns and in our activism, and that supported our work. They were often never seen as much because, again, the media always wanted to focus on the black on black crime and the black gang crime.
No, that's great. I think, you know, you're absolutely right, because I think we know as trade unionists how the media portray us as well. So, you know, we know about that negative media portrayals that we get, and how, you know, it really does put blame in the wrong places and show things completely spun the way they want it. So I think Beverly's got a question.
It's not actually a question, it's a comment. Really.
Fine.
I'd like to thank you very much, because I've got an interview to be a counsellor this week. My first interview in 35 years, and I was panicking. My nerves have gone and everything. But listening to what you're saying has given me confidence now that I can face that I can face that interview. So
now that oh, you've gone quiet. I'm glad you've got that, you've taken that from this, Bev, because, you know, I mean, I've known you since more or less you started getting involved, and Beverly's one of these people who gets very much involved with community and charities, and you will make a fantastic councillor, right? I mean, I know we've got Councillor Julie Gibson on later on this week, and I know we've got the Lord Mayor of Liverpool, Anna Rothery, on later on this week. And, you know, we've got a few councillors who've given their apologies tonight because they're all in council meetings. But it's a place where we need to get our voices heard. So one of the questions I'd like to ask you is, what does it involve being a lieutenant of Greater Manchester? It's not a term I'd ever heard of before.
I don't know. It's a very good question, because I remember when I got the letter, I was like, because it comes with one of them posh ones with the seal and everything, and then the reality hits you where you think, well, actually, what is it? You know, what do I have to do? Well, you've got the Lord Lieutenant of Greater Manchester, the County of Greater Manchester, which is Warren Smith, and he's the direct, you know, representative for Her Majesty the Queen, and I'm one of his deputies. So indirectly, I represent Her Majesty the Queen at certain events, and, you know, get to meet certain royals when they come up here. And I've met the Princess of Saudi Arabia. Can you imagine me? And I remember when I met her, you should have seen her. She was curtsying. She was like, "Oh, I'm so pleased to meet you." And inside, I'm thinking, "God, you're the Princess of Saudi Arabia. I just come from down the road," you know, kind of thing. But yeah, we get to do that. We attend events representing Her Majesty, so representing Warren. We do citizenship ceremonies, so we swear people in, people that become British citizens, we swear them in and bring a message from Her Majesty. And it's really nice because certain things we're asked to do, we actually do get a message from Her Majesty to read out to people. So that's what it means. And we hold that, it's a civic position that we hold to when we're, I think it's 75.
Wow. You know, it just goes to show in these positions that, you know, you don't really, we've heard about Lord Lieutenant. I'm still actually trying to get my head around how many mayors Liverpool has, you know, because you've got, you've got your Metro Mayor, you've got your Mayor, you've got your, you know, we've got the Lord Mayor. And, you know, I know we had a Lord Mayor of Manchester, because many, many years ago, I had to stand in as the Miss Royal Naval Lifeboat Institution, the Miss RNLI, because she was on holiday, and my mother actually volunteered me to do that, you know. But it shows how we can get involved in all sorts of things, can't we? You know, and it's there on our doorstep. I mean, personally, from a gun point of view, I mean, I say I do remember those days. And just to give you a little bit of a story as well, because we have a telephone exchange in Moss Side. I work for Openreach, you know, the telephone engineering company, and it was part of BT then. And one of my colleagues, who I still know him well now as a retired member, he worked in there full time throughout everything that was going on in Moss Side. And the police used to ask him to borrow his car and stuff so they could keep eyes on. So he was like, "No way, I'm not getting involved in that." But he tells a lovely story about being in the sandwich shop at lunchtime, right? And his pager went off, because in those days we had pagers before mobile phones. And when that happened, everybody apparently in the sandwich shop flattened themselves on the floor, thinking there was going to be some sort of a drive-by. And he stood there going, no, they only want something wiring up in the exchange. It's okay. But, you know, it shows how no matter who you were, it did actually affect the wider community massively, right? And we know we've still got knife crime activists now, because of course we know that's getting even worse. I don't think, and you know, I know I'm not going to get into this debate of, you know, should we carry guns, should we be armed or not, right? Personally, I like the way the country is. You know, am I anti-gun? No, I'm anti the people who shoot them, right, in the wrong place. So so have we got any other comments from anybody? I think it's great to say that Beverly's standing for councillor. That has just absolutely made my day, that has, to actually hear you're doing that. So anything from anybody else? Any of the boys got anything to say? Yeah, I know we've got Mark and Saf and Carl on. Dave? Oh, everybody's been a bit quiet. Everybody's been a bit quieter today.
So can I have a say? It's great to be here this evening. Professor Erinma, thank you very much for that slide. It's great. I'm always happy when I'm where you give a speech. It's always touched my life, and I always have a lesson from it. Thank you very much for this great platform. And thank you for organizing this such event. It's lovely. Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate that, because one of the things I say we tried to do in all the events we've got this week, it's something a little bit different for everybody. We don't want to take up lots and lots of your time, but I think, you know, we've got some very, very interesting women in our lives. I class myself as very honoured to have met Professor Bell tonight, because I've heard about you, seen your statues, stuff like that. But, you know, we don't often get the chance to meet people. And I think this has really been, for me, it's been quite inspiring, because it shows what can be done and how something that starts off local as well can lead to so many different things. When I got involved with the union to start off with, I had no idea where I was going to end up, you know, and now sort of 10, 14 years later, the position that I'm in, and we're organising these events, and I look around this screen and there are women here who have mentored me and inspired me. You know who you are, so you can all have a little smile on your face, but you know, most of you are there. And you know, it's really, really good to know that we have got that support for each other. And I think that is one of the key things, is going out there, saying what's wrong. You know, let's stand up and be counted. As trade unionists, I think that's something that we do anyway. But at the same time, let's open our eyes to the wider world, the issues, and just know that we can change it. And we do. And people like you are doing it all day, every day. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, this has been absolutely fascinating. We will share the slides with those of you who've asked for the slides. And on that note, I just wondered whether Sheila wanted to come in and say a quick hello. This has all been organised. Sorry, Professor Bell, I'll let you come in.
I just off the back of what you was just saying there, you know, when you start doing something, you never know where it's going to end up. It's like with myself, I'm thinking, my goodness, I've got a statue. You know, and it's the first statue in 150 years of a female to be unveiled in Manchester Town Hall. You know, and I think, you know, it creates a new paradigm in history. One, I'm a woman. Two, I'm a Black African woman. And I think three, most importantly, I'm still alive. It's not 100 years after I've died. You know, I'm still alive, and I can take selfies with my own statue. That's why I always show that other picture with me next to it. I'm still here. And I only say that because somebody once sent a tweet or something, oh, I wish I'd met her. And I tweeted back, I said, I'm still alive. I haven't gone anywhere, you know. So, yeah, you know, you never know where things are going to take you. You know, as long as your heart's in it, you know, and you've got the passion for what it is that you want to do, I think just go ahead and do it. Just go for it. You know, I mean, I've been to some amazing places across the world, met some amazing people. I remember the first time I was asked to come and speak abroad, I was like, what, you want to hear what I've got to say? Me, you know, go abroad, you know. And it's been a fantastic journey. When I look back, it's been a fantastic journey. But I also say to people, did I ever set out to be a community activist? No way. I used to actually see them as troublemakers. I used to think, oh, they just make trouble, you know, but actually I've now accepted that that's what I do, you know, but it's necessary trouble. That's what I do. Yeah. So go out there and do that necessary trouble, ladies. Do
Perfect. Thank you. Go on, Sheila.
Yeah, I just want to ask Erinma, is there anyone that she looks up to before I close? I want to know who you look up to yourself, and is there anyone you aspire to be? I
suppose there's a couple of things there. I always remember my mother. My mother passed away now about 23 years now. But my mom always used to say to me, God, you need a job where you're talking, because you talk too much. You know, that's what she always used to say to me. You need a job where you're talking, because if somebody says one word, you say 100, you know. And so I often remember that, because like I said, I didn't know this was going to be my journey. And I often feel that it's my mom that's spurring me on, you know, because she was a teacher, and, you know, she came here, you know, before the 60s, and she even used to lecture at, it was called UMIS then. No, not UMIS, you know, the toast rack one. That's where she used to work. And I remember her showing me the photograph of all the lecturers that were there. There must have been about 100 of them, and there was only one black face, and that was my mum's. And, you know, and it never bothered, I don't know if it really bothered her, but she brought us up to know that, you know what, no matter where you are, who you mix with, you can do and be whatever it is you want to do. So long as you stay focused and, you know, with your drive and your passion, you can move forward and do what you want to do. And, you know, don't let other people be judging you. So that spurs me on a lot, and that keeps me going. And I think it usually is my mom. I mean, there are other women that I love to listen to and watch, you know, like Oprah and Iyanla Van Lance, if that's how you pronounce it. I love her as well, you know, and all the sayings that, you know, she says and does. Yeah, you know, this is quite a few, but, and those real, when I say real women that I've met, I'm not saying Oprah Winfrey's not a real woman, but I've never met her, you know. But, you know, the ones that I showed, you know, on my thing, that, you know, real women like that I've actually met and sat down and spoke with, and they've told me things that they're dealing with. I think, wow, you know, if they can do that, you know, what am I dealing with? I can go back and make a difference, you know. So it's people like that. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Just before Sheila closes up, I just wanted to say there's a couple of comments here in the chat, right? I just wanted to, you know, Leslie's saying this is so informing. Thank you so much. Fantastic presentation there from Lynn. You're a true inspiration, Professor Bell. Thank you. Presentation was brilliant. Thank you. Right. So from all of us, you know, a huge thank you. And you know, you've now got a contact with us as well. If there's anything we can do to help and support, we are, you know, some of us are in Manchester, some are in Preston, some are in Liverpool. We're all over the Northwest. But, you know, thank you again for the time you've given us tonight. And I'll hand over to Sheila to close.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to you, Karen, for being the chair tonight. And a big thank you for Professor Erinma Bell. You've been fantastic, and you are an inspiration to everybody. You know, your mum's done a really good job. Right. So thank you all for joining us, and I'll let Karen turn us all off.
Oh, yeah, my favourite button at the end of the night is that's it. That's the end of that one. Well, listen, ladies, hope to see you all again. Remember, we've got different ones each week, if you can, each night this week, if you can make it. So stay safe, and we'll see you again. Bye.
Bye.